Adoptive family tied black woman to a pole and called her a failure until her billionaire husband. Champagne bubbled in crystal glasses as guests dressed in elegant attire laughed at the spectacle in the Whitmore mansion's garden. Olivia, 28, remained motionless, her wrists tied tightly to the decorative post, the marks of the rope already reining her dark skin. Her simple dress, bought especially for her adoptive sister Catherine's 30th birthday, was now dirty and torn. "Look at our family charity case. Always the failure, isn't she? She couldn't even finish college." Catherine raised her glass, prompting more laughter from the guests. "How many jobs have you lost this year, Olivia?" 3, 4. Olivia's adoptive mother, Eleanor Whitmore, just watched with a restrained smile while her husband, Richard, laughed openly. 15 years in the Whitmore family, and Olivia was still treated like an outsider. Worse, like a charity project that never worked out. She always had the potential to be someone in life, but she wasted every opportunity, Eleanor commented to a group of friends loud enough for Olivia to hear. "We adopted her to set a good example for the children about diversity, but frankly, she's been an example of what not to do." Olivia could have screamed, she could have cried or begged to be released. Instead, she took a deep breath and held her head high. Her eyes, far from showing defeat, shone with a surprising calm that disconcerted some of those present. "Why isn't she crying?" whispered one guest to another. "I'd be mortified." Catherine's brother, Thomas, approached with a glass of water. For a moment, Olivia thought he was going to help her. Instead, he threw the water in her face, prompting another wave of laughter. "To clear your head," he sneered. "Maybe then you'll understand that you'll never really be part of this family." An older woman, Eleanor's aunt, approached Olivia and said quietly, "Honey, if you just tried harder to fit in, tried to be more like us, things would be easier." Flashbacks flooded Olivia's mind, the countless times she had been excluded from family photos. The parties where she served drinks instead of participating. The cheap gifts she received while her adopted siblings got cars and international trips. The subtle and sometimes not so subtle insinuations about her skin color and background. Something in Olivia's eyes changed and a newly arrived guest noticed. He approached the group discreetly, watching the scene with disturbing interest. "How long is she going to be tied up there?" he asked Eleanor, feigning disinterest. "Oh, just until the party's over," Eleanor replied casually. "It's a family tradition. Every time someone makes a mistake, they have to go through the shame pole." But she's used to it. What Eleanor didn't know was that the ropes tying Olivia to the pole were nowhere near as strong as the ones that had kept her tied to that toxic family for years, and those were about to snap. Olivia glanced at the gold clock on the garden wall. 7:30 p.m. A discreet smile formed on the corner of her lips, so subtle that no one noticed. In her mind, a countdown had begun. While everyone celebrated her humiliation, no one noticed the message that flashed quickly on her smartwatch before disappearing. "I'm 5 minutes away. Ready." If this story of discrimination and family humiliation touched your heart, be sure to subscribe to the channel to find out how Olivia turned the most humiliating moment of her life into a turnaround that no one would ever forget, and how a well-kept secret was about to turn that mansion upside down. 3 months before that humiliating birthday celebration, Olivia walked through the business park trying to control her breathing. She had just left another failed job interview, her third that month. The interviewer had looked at her resume with that familiar expression of disdain when he saw the address of the neighborhood where she lived. "You have the qualifications, but we're looking for someone who fits in better with the company culture," he had said, barely disguising the real reason for her rejection. Olivia knew exactly what fits in better meant. She sat on a bench watching executives in expensive suits come and go from mirrored buildings. Tears threatened to fall, but she held them back. She wouldn't give the world that satisfaction. Not after 15 years of holding back her tears in the Whitmore mansion. That's when a man sat down next to her without ceremony. He was dressed simply, but there was something about his posture that suggested authority. "Rough day?" he asked, offering her a handkerchief without looking directly at her. "You have no idea," Olivia replied, surprised by her own candor. "Try telling me about it," he smiled. "I'm Marcus Chen, and I promise I'm a good listener." Something about his calmness broke down her defenses. Olivia told him about the interview, about the constantly closed doors, about the feeling of always being one step behind despite her dedication. She didn't mention the Whiters. Some pains were too private to share with strangers. Marcus listened attentively without interrupting. When she finished, he simply said, "You're the most qualified person I've met in months, and my company needs someone just like you." Olivia laughed bitterly. "You haven't even seen my resume." "I don't need to. I've seen your resilience." The following week, Olivia was hired by Horizon Innovations, a rapidly expanding technology company. No one at the Whitmore mansion believed it or cared. "It's probably some charity work," Catherine commented at dinner, pouring herself more wine. "Or maybe it's a diversity program. They have quotas to fill, you know." Richard the Patriarch laughed. "It won't last 3 weeks. Remember when she tried working at that art gallery? She was fired in less than a month." What they didn't know was that Olivia had been sabotaged at that job. Eleanor had called the gallery owner, an old friend, insinuating that Olivia had problems with honesty. The same tactic she had used at Olivia's last 3 jobs. But this time, it was different. Marcus didn't just give Olivia a chance, he protected her. As CEO of Horizon, he made sure no outside interference would affect her performance. And Olivia blossomed. Her talent for data analysis, stifled by years of devaluation, proved extraordinary. Meanwhile, at the mansion, hostility grew. Olivia's unexpected success deeply irritated the Whitmores. They increased the humiliations, the veiled racist jokes, the snide comments about her appearance and background. "It's touching how she keeps trying," Eleanor said during brunch with her friends. "We took her in knowing it would be a challenge, but honestly, there's only so much we can do for someone who just doesn't have, well, you know." Her friends nodded sympathetically. One of them looked out the window and saw Olivia pulling up in a new car. "Modest but new. Looks like the charity work is paying off," she commented venomously. What none of them noticed was the sparkle in Olivia's eyes every time she discreetly checked her smartwatch. Marcus wasn't just her boss. In the last few weeks, he had become her confidant, then her friend, and eventually much more. One night, after a particularly cruel family dinner where Thomas accidentally spilled sauce on her white blouse, Olivia found Marcus waiting for her at a quiet cafe a few blocks away. "I can't take it anymore," she confessed, trembling with contained rage. 15 years of being treated like a failed charity project. Marcus held her hands. "Why do you still live there? I promised my birth mother before she died. She knew Eleanor from college and believed she would be a good family for me." Olivia took a deep breath. "And part of me always hoped that one day they would see me for who I really am, that I was part of the family." "What if I told you there's another family waiting for you?" Marcus asked softly, his eyes revealing deep feelings. The romance blossomed in secret. Marcus revealed himself to be not only the CEO of Horizon, but the owner of a technology conglomerate worth billions. His simplicity was a conscious choice. He preferred to be judged by his character, not his bank account. When Marcus proposed 2 months later, Olivia accepted on one condition. No one in the Whitmore family would know. Not yet. She had something to prove first, not just to them, but to herself. Together, they devised a plan. Olivia kept a low profile at the mansion, enduring every insult, every humiliation with a new serenity that baffled the family. She began collecting evidence, recording conversations, saving cruel text messages, documenting every incident of psychological abuse. A week before Catherine's birthday, Olivia and Marcus made their marriage official in a private ceremony with only 2 witnesses. Not even their closest friends knew yet. "When are we going to tell them?" Marcus asked as they signed the documents. At the perfect moment, Olivia replied, "When they can't deny what they've done. When the whole world is watching." What the Whites interpreted as resignation was actually the calculated calm of someone who knew exactly what was coming. Behind her silence grew not just a plan for exposure, but a new life, one they could never have imagined for the failure they had adopted. As Olivia remained tied to the pole at that party, her smartwatch vibrated once more. The plan had been accelerated. Marcus wasn't 5 minutes away. He was already there among the guests, watching everything, documenting every moment of the public humiliation that the Whites believed to be just another family tradition. And he wasn't alone. In the mansion's garage, an inconspicuous car waited with Sofia Martinez, the most respected investigative journalist on the East Coast, a woman known for bringing down empires built on prejudice and abuse. At her side was James Washington, the lawyer who had successfully sued 3 of the country's largest corporations for systematic discrimination. The rope tying Olivia to the pole seemed strong, but not stronger than her determination. While everyone laughed and drank champagne at her expense, no one realized that every second of that humiliation was not the end of her story. It was just the beginning of the end of the Whitmore family. The gold clock read 7:45 p.m. when the sound of a helicopter cut through the party buzz. The guests looked up confused as the wind from the blades ruffled the floral arrangements. The helicopter landed in the adjacent field displaying the Horizon Innovations logo. Eleanor frowned. "Who dares to land on our property without permission?" Before anyone could react, Marcus Chin strode across the lawn, accompanied by a woman with a press badge and a man in an impeccable suit. Silence fell as he walked directly to the pole where Olivia remained tied. "Who are you?" Richard shouted, positioning himself between them. Marcus ignored him, pulling a pocket K-knife from his pocket and cutting the ropes binding Olivia. Gently, he wrapped his jacket around her shoulders and examined her bruised wrists. "Are you okay?" he asked softly. Olivia nodded, allowing a single tear to fall. Marcus finally faced Richard. "I'm Marcus Chin, CEO of Horizon Innovations and Olivia's husband." Catherine dropped her glass, which shattered on the stone patio. "Husband." Eleanor recovered, forcing a laugh. "That's absurd. Olivia doesn't even have a boyfriend." The woman next to Marcus stepped forward. "Sophia Martinez, CNN. We're documenting this event for a series on family discrimination and psychological abuse." "This is private property," Richard shouted. "Actually," the man in the suit interjected, "we're here at the invitation of Olivia Chun, a resident of this house." James Washington, attorney. "These are the court orders we obtained this afternoon." Richard's eyes widened as he recognized the name of the famous civil rights lawyer. Marcus gently squeezed Olivia's hand. It was time. She stepped forward, breaking her silence. "For 15 years, you made me believe I was worthless." Her voice echoed through the silent garden. "You called me a failure, inadequate, ungrateful. You made me work as a maid while pretending to be my parents." "This is ridiculous," Catherine protested. "Olivia has always been troubled." She was interrupted when the screens scattered around the garden changed. Instead of Catherine's photos, screenshots of messages from the Whitmore family appeared. "Catherine, someone needs to remind our sister that charity isn't kinship. Does she really think she's going to the gala with us?" "Eleanor, I called the principal at Westfield today. I explained that Olivia has emotional issues. We've managed to keep it in the family. Thank God." "Richard, the diversity project backfired. Who knew raising a black child would be so complicated?" The guests gasped collectively. Some began to discreetly slip away. "These are just a few of the thousands of messages I've documented," Olivia explained calmly. "I also have recordings, statements, and medical reports of the injuries I've sustained." "Injuries?" someone whispered. "What do you think happened when I was constantly tripping?" Olivia rolled up her sleeves slightly, revealing old scars. Thomas lunged forward, furious. "You're ruining everything." Marcus stepped between them. "What exactly did you do for her, Thomas? Tie her to a pole or sabotage her college application?" The screens changed again, showing financial documents from the Whitmore Foundation with questionable transfers highlighted in red. Eleanor staggered. "You can't do this. Our reputation." "Her reputation," Olivia repeated. "You're worried about reputation when you tied me to a pole in front of 100 people." A drone flew over the garden filming the scene. More drones appeared, some with news channel logos. "This is being broadcast live," Sophia informed her. "And tomorrow it will be headline news in every major newspaper." Richard finally realized the magnitude of what was happening. "What do you want?" "Money. We can negotiate." "I don't want your money," Olivia interrupted. "I just want to be treated like a human being." James Washington stepped forward. "However, your financial records have revealed irregularities that have already been forwarded to the authorities. We have sufficient evidence to pursue charges of emotional distress, psychological abuse, and possibly physical abuse." The guests began to move away from the Whitmore family as if they were carrying a contagious disease. Aunt Elizabeth, Eleanor's older sister, approached Olivia. "I always suspected, but I never had the courage to intervene. Forgive me. Olivia looked at her. You knew and did nothing. Marcus put a protective arm around Olivia's shoulders. Shall we? She nodded, but before turning away, she looked at Catherine. Do you know the difference between us? You never had to prove your worth to be loved. I spent my whole life trying until I realized the problem was never me. As Olivia and Marcus walked away from the estate, the Widmore social empire crumbled in real time. The world now watched as a facade of perfection crumbled, revealing years of cruelty and discrimination. And the question hanging in the air was simple. What happens when those who built their identity on the humiliation of others suddenly find themselves exposed to the same scrutiny they imposed on others? The answer would begin to unfold the next morning when the first newspaper hit the stands with the headline, "Prominent Family Exposed, the Hidden Face of the American Elite." The morning after the exposé, Olivia's story dominated the national headlines. Her face was on every screen, no longer as a victim, but as a symbol of resistance. The hashtag #OliviaStrong trended as experts debated predatory transracial adoption and institutionalized abuse in elite families on morning talk shows. It was never about revenge, Olivia explained in her first and only exclusive interview given 3 months after the incident. It was about truth, about showing that people like me don't have to remain invisible. The interview recorded in Olivia and Marcus's new apartment in Chicago revealed a transformed woman, confident, eloquent, and finally free from the weight of 15 years of abuse. At her side, Marcus remained discreet, allowing the focus to remain entirely on her. The Whiters, on the other hand, experienced a fall from grace that was as swift as it was brutal. Richard lost his position on the board of 3 major companies after investigations revealed that he had used his influence to sabotage the careers of promising black employees. Eleanor saw her social connections disappear overnight. The same friends who had applauded her charity in adopting Olivia now denied any close acquaintance. "I'm not racist," Eleanor insisted in a disastrous interview attempt where she ended up calling the reporter too sensitive when asked about particularly offensive messages. Olivia has always had trouble fitting in. "We did the best we could." Catherine, whose wedding had been called off by her horrified fiancé, became persona non grata in her social circle. Her career as a digital influencer imploded when sponsors pulled contracts en masse. She tried to capitalize on an apology video, but comments were closed after an avalanche of criticism. Thomas, faced with allegations of physical abuse, faced even more severe consequences when former employees of his company came forward with similar stories. A pattern of predatory behavior emerged, resulting in his dismissal and multiple lawsuits. The Widmore's financial empire collapsed when auditors uncovered tax irregularities at their charitable foundation. Ironically, the same foundation they used to promote themselves as champions of diversity. The mansion was put up for sale to cover mounting legal debts. Meanwhile, Olivia refused to remain just the woman who was tied to the pole. With Marcus's support, she founded the Initiative for Ethical Adoption, IA, an organization dedicated to reforming transracial adoption practices and providing psychological support to adopted children facing challenges of identity and belonging. "Scars don't disappear," she explained during the inauguration of the IIA's first center 2 years after the incident. "But we can turn them into tools to build a better world." Aunt Elizabeth, the only member of the Widmore family to show genuine remorse, became a volunteer at the foundation, working tirelessly to make up for years of silent complicity. "I learned the hard way that neutrality in the face of oppression is choosing the side of the oppressor," she confessed in a support group for family members. 5 years after that fateful night, Olivia published her memoir, not a sensationalized account of abuse, but a profound reflection on identity, belonging, and the journey to finding her own voice. The book became an instant bestseller and is now required reading in social work courses at universities across the country. One fall afternoon, as Olivia signed copies at a Manhattan bookstore, a woman in line caught her eye. It was Catherine, looking very different. No expensive makeup, jewelry, or air of superiority. "I don't expect forgiveness," Catherine said when she finally reached the front of the line. "I just wanted you to know that your book changed something in me." Olivia studied the face of the woman she had once called sister. "It was never about forgiveness, Catherine. It was about responsibility." She handed her the signed book and before Catherine walked away added, "I hope you find peace." "I found mine today," Olivia Chun runs one of the most respected organizations advocating for the rights of adopted children in the country. Her story inspired stricter legislation on adoption practices and awareness of systemic discrimination. The pole to which she was tied became a symbol not of humiliation but of transformation. Marcus and Olivia now have 2 adopted children raised in a home where diversity is celebrated, not tolerated. Their home is always open to young people transitioning from the adoption system to adulthood. True justice, Olivia often reflects, is not in the downfall of those who hurt her, but in building a legacy that ensures other children never experience what she did. Marcus' wealth provided comfort, but it was Olivia's inner strength that created meaning. In speeches across the country, she always concludes with the same words. Don't let the scars of your past define your future. Let them inform your compassion, strengthen your resolve, and guide your mission. The greatest revenge against those who try to diminish you is to grow so powerful that your very existence becomes an act of revolution. The latest news about the Whites reveals that Eleanor lives in seclusion. Richard faces possible imprisonment for tax fraud and Thomas is serving supervised community service. The mansion where Olivia was humiliated has been converted into a community center for youth from marginalized communities. Olivia's life is not defined by what the Whitmore did to her, but by what she chose to do with her pain. The woman who was tied to a pole now frees others from their own invisible chains. If this story about turning pain into purpose touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more powerful stories about people who turned their greatest challenges into their most extraordinary victories. Please.